Hey there LEGO fans, welcome back. Alex here. In this video I'm very excited to do a quick review and comparison of the new LEGO Concorde. This is set number 10318, contains 2,083 pieces and it retails for $200 US. This came out about a month ago or so and I'm very excited to finally have this thing here for a quick review with you guys. Now when I first saw the box art of this thing, I thought, hey, that's a pretty cool looking airplane, but it wasn't until I actually went into a LEGO store and I saw it in the window a couple weeks ago that this thing is very large. I mean, look at the length of this thing. It's pretty impressive. And I knew when I saw the length of this thing, I really wanted it in my collection and to share with you all in greater detail. Now, the first thing I want to make mention of this thing is the build experience. This thing was a lot of fun to build, and I know that mostly because my teenage son, Josh, who is 16, whenever he wants to build in a model himself, you know it's a good experience. So he was more than halfway done with this thing before I was able to make it upstairs and help finish the build. Now, in the instruction books, there's just one instruction book, which is very, very thick. But as you open this thing up, there's great information about the Concorde itself, some information about the designers, and then, of course, you're on into the build. Now, throughout the build experience, on the pages of the instruction book, there's really neat informational bits about the Concorde that are just so much fun to read, and it really adds a lot of value to the build experience. So a big shout out to LEGO for providing that. There's a lot of fun stuff in here, and after building the Concorde, I knew so much more about this thing than I did before, and it was really cool to be able to read those as I was building it. You're also going to notice that we have some extra elements here, these orange bits. These are built to help you stabilize the aircraft as you build the model throughout. Unfortunately, these are some things that you probably need to keep track of after you're done with the build. They always make me a little anxious that I'm going to lose those, because if I ever were to get rid of this or sell this or give it away, I feel like these are needed to make it a complete set. Unfortunately, there are no minifigures with this thing. Not surprising, but I kind of feel like maybe LEGO could have given us some generic minifigures, maybe a pilot and a co-pilot would have been kind of cool with this thing, but just the aircraft is nice, I guess, so I'm happy with that. There are no stickers included in the Concorde set, so I'm really happy about that because I'm not a fan of stickers, as you guys know, but as you can see, if it did have stickers, especially for these window elements, I think that would have been really rough to look at, but regardless, very happy that what we do have are printed elements. Always a plus. Looking at this set, you wouldn't think that this thing is complex or has a lot of technicality to it, but it actually does. And on the inside of this thing, inside the fuselage, there's a lot of technique going on. And Josh actually did all of that work, so thanks, Josh, for helping me out on that, because I'm not a huge fan of the more technical stuff with those pieces. But they do a fantastic job of operating the landing gear. So at the back here, there's several cone elements, and you twist these on the back, and that, of course, moves the landing gear up and down very smoothly and very synchronized, I might add, between the front and the rear. Other movable elements on this thing, of course, are going to be the nose. As we know, the Concorde does have this nose that dips down and up. Now, I didn't know why that was, but I learned from the instruction book that that was all about visibility, so that the pilots could actually see the runway. And of course, when they're in flight, it flips up and they're good to go. That was pretty darn cool. You also have this rear rudder. There's actually two rudders that work independently of each other. There's a reason for that, but I won't spoil that for you. And of course, there are some adjusters on the wing right here, and they're movable, so you can kind of position this in such a way, depending on how you want to display your model. Now, there actually is an interior to the Concorde. We actually open up this middle section here, and that reveals several seats as well as a couple toilets. Always nice to see that an interior is included, even though it's micro scale. Now, I did some size comparisons with this thing, you guys, because, well, this thing is very large. I want to kind of see how it stacks up with some of my more larger models. And of course, that is going to be my Star Wars models here in the back. Now, the wings on this thing specifically reminded me of the UCS shuttle Tidarium. Those very large white wings of the shuttle are very complex. They have a lot of technique in them. While this one doesn't have quite as much, it's still pretty impressive, but not quite as big as the shuttle. Regardless of that, I still think the Concorde's wings are pretty cool looking. I also compared it to the UCS Star Destroyer. It's actually just as long as the Star Destroyer. I couldn't believe that, but yeah, it does match it from the front to the back. And speaking of the dimensions, let me share these dimensions with you really quick. So it is 6 inches tall, or 15 centimeters. It's 17 inches wide, I guess the wingspan there, or 43 centimeters, and 42 inches long, or 105 centimeters. So yes, that does match the UCS Star Destroyer, but not the UCS Super Star Destroyer, which does look like it has about 4 or 5 inches on it. Regardless, this thing is still pretty impressive, and it also makes it a bit of a challenge to display this thing. Now let's talk about the display, because this thing does have a stand that comes on it. It's a very unique stand, not like any stand that you would build with the Star Wars models, but I do like that it has this very official looking 4x8 tile that is of course printed, that says Concorde on it, has some great little information about the Concorde as well. So yeah, you can display this thing on the stand here, which also I want to make mention that this thing is not sitting on any anti-studs. It's on actually the side of the bricks, which I thought was an interesting approach, but you know what? It works pretty well. But when it is on that stand, the nose is pointing really high in the air, so it is quite an interesting angle. So if you don't want to do it that way, you can still have your stand here alongside and just display it like it's standing right here with its landing gear out. Now, of course, I don't want to just compare this thing to UCS Star Wars sets. I also have airplanes that I want to compare it to. Now, these airplanes, this is not apples to apples. This is just for fun. The wingspan of these other LEGO City airplanes are a little longer, but have really nothing on the detail of the Concorde. But regardless, it's still kind of cool to see them next to it. I really don't have anything exactly like the Concorde to compare it to. I think there was a Boeing aircraft several years ago that might have been kind of fun, but I never got a hold of that. But this thing is something that is even cooler looking, I think, in my opinion, and it's going to be a great display option for adult builders. But you know what? I will say this, guys. I think this thing has some playability. I mean, this thing is easy to pick up and fly around. So yeah, I can see some people, myself included, running through the house, making some awesome whooshing and jet sound engines as it runs through the kitchen and living room and other parts of the house. One more thing I want to add here, and I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are. There is a 1x1, kind of a sloped tile here that is stuck between the two studs. There's also one underneath the aircraft as well. Now, one could argue that that's an illegal build because it's not actually attaching an anti-stud to a stud. What do you guys think? Is that an illegal build? Is that something LEGO should be doing, or should they leave that to people like the AFOLs to be a little more creative? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, well, that is a quick look at the new LEGO Concorde. Now, would I buy this thing for $200? Well, I think considering the build experience, the overall look of the aircraft, and the features that come with it, I do feel like it is, yes, worth the $200. Although, I will say, like I said before, I wish it came with a couple of minifigures. I think that would have been just the icing on the cake. But as is, I think it's just fine. Now, full disclosure, I was not planning on buying this set, at least not for a very long time. I had requests from you, the community, to do a review on the channel. Even though it's been out for a while and there's plenty of other reviews out there, I reached out to the LEGO group. I asked them like, hey, would it be okay if I got this thing for a review on my channel? They said, yeah, that'd be great. They sent it over to me. So a big thank you to the LEGO group for providing me this copy for review, even though it's not an early copy. All right, guys, now it is time to find a spot for this thing to be displayed somewhere in the house. Let's go ahead and do that now. So I mentioned earlier that people are going to fly this thing through their kitchen and their living room. Well, here is actual proof. Let's go. Flying through the living room now, and we're going to take a sharp left into the front room. Another sharp left here to the hodgepodge of LEGO displays, and in for just a very awkward landing. There we go. Awesome. This was really the only spot I had for it. There's just nowhere else it would actually fit really well. And this is kind of like I said, a hodgepodge of different sets that don't really have a category in mass. So this is going to work out pretty good for the Concorde. And I gotta say, the thing looks very prestigious, doesn't it? Very, very nice. I do wish it was displayed on a lower shelf, but it makes it kind of hard. These cubbies aren't that long. As you can see, that thing really is just super long from the back to the front there. Oh, you know what? There was one more comparison that I wanted to show off here. I'm going to turn around here and go in the office. And that's the shuttle, the Space Shuttle Discovery. I think this, because it's the same price tag, right? $200, and you get the Hubble. I think this offers more playability, but it also displays quite well, I think, right? So that is something that I would argue is maybe a better bang for your buck. But when it comes to just the overall displayability and prestige of a piece of history, well, the Concorde definitely shines. So anyway, guys, yeah, thanks for hanging out with me today with this review. Let me know what you guys think of the Concorde. Is this a set that gets you guys excited? Is this something you're going to try to pick up now or in the future? I'd like to know. So let me know in the comment section below. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.